Before we even get into the NFL draft for Shador and all that, let's talk about an old school NFL player. Let's talk about Shannon Sharpe.
Oh, right.
We know everything came out after, he's about to get this new $100 million contract. We know that was big. Then 2 days later, we hear about this lawsuit, $50 million lawsuit, sexual assault. And something that somebody asked me and pointed out to me is like, why didn't they go to the police first? Why didn't they file a police report? It's straight about the money on this situation from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, see, here's, that's true. I would imagine that the answer you'd probably get is that it's very uncomfortable and sometimes not done with much success when you're a nobody, so to speak, an average citizen, and you report a famous man for assault. Now, granted, white lady, black man, a lot different. She probably would have had a lot more sympathy. Not probably, would have.
Right.
But
right.
That this is definitely a money grab, in my opinion. Here's the thing. I wanted to talk to you about this because right after this happened, I did talk to you. And because I watched the Stephen A. Smith piece. I think I sent it to you.
Right.
And I was critical because, as I usually am, of his first comments, because I felt that he was kind of like, he was seriously distancing himself from Shannon after saying he was his boy. Then he just went on to say, but I don't know anything about it. I wasn't there, which was all true. But the more I find out about this case, the more I can sympathize with Stephen A's position on this thing, because this was from the outside looking in, this was some stupid stuff, man. So here's the thing that's going to be tricky for Shannon. And I think, without, making any type of, accusations against him that, because I don't know what happened, but it doesn't seem far-fetched that everything that she is accusing Shannon Sharpe of doing happened, but it might have been consensual. And then as a older, this is just life. Forget your Shannon Sharpe and the money. That's another thing, but just in life, when you're an older black man with a young, she was legal. Some people might still consider her underage for a 56-year-old man.
They said some morals involved. Yeah.
Right. To do that.
Yeah.
When it starts going that kinky direction, your red flag should go up. Let's say, you know what? I don't know her well enough, and we're not in this, and I'm not doing this with this person, if that's what happened, which I tend to believe is a good chance it did. Now, it could be a straight lie, could be a straight money grab, and hopefully the courts will be able to work that out. But man, I'm so hesitant to throw stones here because, see, I've made some stupid decisions in my life.
Exactly.
And I've made decisions where people from the outside looking in would say, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? And they would be legitimate questions. And that's what I think about Shannon. But when you're talking about, there's always the but. Now, I'm being judgmental here, but I got to. I mean, my goodness, Shannon Sharpe isn't like and I know I'm going to speak disparagingly about maybe somebody who may get a lot of women, but he's not like some nerd sitting in, who never gets women, who has no experience with women, has no experience with things. Right. I know he might be, maybe, he didn't grow up necessarily in the heart of Manhattan. So, I'm sure he's maybe a little less sophisticated than some other people, but he's been around the world. He's done a lot of things. How you get yourself in this situation with a woman this young is beyond me. It just is, especially after looking at her. Like when I saw her, so I hate to say this part. This is the superficial part, but it's just like, man, when I heard about this, I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the rest of it. Like this woman is Aphrodite, or she's the prince of some princess of some country or something, or is worth $5 billion. I'm just like, wow, this is an OnlyFans chick.
People got their kinks. You know what? I look at it this way: people got their kinks. People like what they like. But for me, the issue I have is that crying wolf hurts the accused and future victims. It makes domestic violence, it makes policing it much harder. I mean, it makes everything really just trying to fight against it much harder. Because, say for instance, we don't know what's going on with them. It looks from the outside like they just into some kinky stuff. BDSM, he's looking at the fact that, she's legal, she's young, she's on OnlyFans, I pay her, they do all this stuff and we're fine. But you can't just do that because you can cross the line. But when you have somebody who makes this accusation, you want this, I guess people want it to be true because you want to protect the woman. You want to make sure that she's not, you don't want her lying. But as you said, a black man. I mean, we could talk about Emmett Till. We can talk about Tulsa. We could talk about all these places where, this has been an issue where somebody cried wolf and a brother was taken out, was done wrong. And that's an issue. But if he did do that, if he did do what she said she did, then there needs to be there needs to be consequences. But without discovery, without anything further, everybody's going to jump to the gun. Everybody's going to jump on one side, and that really makes due process very difficult for both sides. And I just think it's wild, and everybody's going to have a different perspective about it. She looks the way she looks. She looks like every other IG model. She knows how to take pictures to enhance her attributes. But the problem that I had is the way she sounded. That
was the other thing too. That's what I was saying. Let me restate something so I don't, get the blowback on social media. When I say it was along with that, when I say this is an OnlyFans chick, okay, I'm sure there's some nuclear physicists on OnlyFans. Okay, I am not saying that because you're on OnlyFans, you're not anything. That was probably a bad thing to say. So I
it wasn't. It was just a presumption. But go ahead. You're good.
But when I say OnlyFans chick, I'm talking about the one in that recording we heard, who's just like, I don't know. Can you, is this the best light for my butt to take this picture? Right. I just don't. I don't understand. I just don't. I'm really disappointed. I guess the biggest thing is this. I'm just really disappointed in Shannon Sharpe. That's all. I've always admired him as a football player. Always. I think, on my top 3 tight ends in the game, I would put probably Shannon Sharpe on there. He, when he went on to commentating and to talking, I guess he started out on ESPN talking about football and then got on First Take on all that. I thought he did a good job. I would kind of joke about his delivery sometimes because it was, it was what it was. But when he went on and started like Club Shay Shay in his podcast and started really building something. And then I used to check out some of his podcasts on Club Shay Shay. And I was like, man, this brother's a pretty decent little interviewer. I mean, he asks some good questions, I think, sometimes. So I was really...
I just don't like this. He don't have any follow-up questions, but he's done extremely well. He
has an entertainment show. He's an entertainment show.
Right. But
I was very... I'm just disappointed that here is another black man who's going to, have a... this might not take him down, but it's going to be on his obituary. You know what I mean? It's going to be when they do the piece, the piece about remembrance of Shannon Sharpe, they're going to mention probably.
They're going to bring this up.
They're going to bring this up. And it's just too bad.
For me, you got to realize that some of these guys, it's a reality check. And people were trying to tell him, Kat was trying to tell him, Monique was trying to tell him, look, dude, certain things you got to just let go. Those, you want to chase after these 20-year-old girls and all that because you got some step daddy fantasy or whatever. let that go, man. You're in a position where you're building your brand. You're doing something that's really establishing a legacy. That right there, hanging out with her, whatever you guys were doing, that doesn't help. And it's a bad look. And first he was going to be staying with ESPN, but ESPN's like, can you say you're stepping aside? That way you can handle your stuff. We keep the bridge in place right now. And so you can clear this up. And he's going to do his best to clear it up because he want to get that money. Anybody wants to get that money. But it's a lesson that he really had to learn.
I do tend to believe that, and I guess because of the nature of the case, we're going to find out probably how it all breaks down. But today, I tend to believe that, there's probably, as far as the physical interaction between the two of them, I tend to believe that something like that went down. But again, I don't think it was, I don't necessarily, they're going to have to prove, we'll have to see whether she was actually assaulted or this was something that happened that she figured she could use to hold it over him.
Her lawyer is that guy, Tony Busby. And he's the same one that worked for the victims, the accuser of Jay-Z in that lawsuit. And also I believe the one with Sean Combs.
Right.
So you got a lawyer who has a little bit of what is your motive. It's like he likes going after these black male celebrities. That's
yeah, and I don't know him either, but sometimes I wonder if that's I don't know whether it's that he likes going after these black male celebrities or that these cases are so easy he can't say no. That's what I believe. That it's just like these brothers have teed it up so well. I can't let this case walk out of my office. It's just too easy. I mean, that's what I believe.